Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you found that enjoyable and a good chance to have your say on those very important topics. Any questions that came up from that you didn't get a chance to ask or have answered? Okay, so next then on our agenda is 3.3, student representation on SEAC. I know Denise had sent something out just the other day. This morning. Well, time, as they say, is relative, right? What's day for one person is night for someone else. I'm usually a bit more coherent than that, but it's been one of those couple of weeks. So did you want to speak to it?
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
All right. So what I sent you is modeled after the Board of Trustees student trustee policy or document. I'm not sure if it's a policy or if it's, I don't know. Anyway, I took it off that and this is what it's modeled after. So I just want to point out some of the key things that are in here that I think are going to require the discussion. So to start with the eligibility criteria. So I'm calling them I called them in the document student representatives because I didn't want to call them trustees because we don't want to get that mix. So I call them student representatives. So to be eligible, they have to be enrolled full-time in a secondary school within the jurisdiction of the board. So I thought that having the perspective, I know what it says in the student trustee one is they have to be in grade 11 or 12. So I said enrolled in a secondary school because you could have CPP students who are not necessarily in grade 11 and grade 12 who may want to apply to be a student representative. So I didn't want to limit it to just grade 11 and 12. That to be eligible, they needed to be an exceptional student with an individual education plan or be a sibling of an exceptional student with an individual education plan. And the reason that I put that, I think we had some discussion around if we want to have student representation on SEAC, they need to be able to provide a perspective. So saying that they're an exceptional student with an IEP, I again didn't want to restrict it to a student within special education programming because you could have a student on an IEP who maybe isn't in a formal spec ed program, but may want to apply. So I'm just kind of giving you some of the logic, and this is based on some of the discussion we had. And then I'm just going to go through the other eligibility criteria, Amy, and then I'll be a pupil of good standing at a Halton District School Board school for the entire year of his or her appointment, and have written consent from both their principal and parent or guardian if under 18 years of age. Yes, Amy.
Thanks. So I was just wondering, do we need the adjective exceptional when we've got with an IEP?
Probably not.
It just seems a bit wordy. So
okay.
If we take out the word exceptional that's in there twice, I think it reads a little bit simpler. And I'm wondering what you mean by a pupil of good standing.
I don't know. That's what's in the school student. That line is taken directly from the student trustee. The student. You have to actually attend. I don't know. What does it mean for the student trustees?
I think it would be good for us to have a definition of that.
I agree. Yeah. Either that or we take it out because the first line said be entering or enrolled full-time in a secondary school within the jurisdiction. So maybe we don't need C. Do they say the same thing? Yes, Leah, sorry. Oh, okay. Diane is on and then Diane. Did you have a comment?
My comment on the whole thing was well done, and I thought very clear. But my comment was, why are the only interviewers trustees?
I have an answer for that. And the reason I did that way is because, you know what, this is relevant for the very first year, but may not be relevant for future years. So the reason I did that was because when they're selecting members at large, so when they select myself, Jason, and Lucille, the interview is conducted with the superintendent and the 4 trustees. So I modeled it after that. because I made the assumption, and now that as I'm thinking it out loud, the assumption is not accurate. I made the assumption that they would be turning over the same time that SEAC turns over, but that is not the case. So the interviewees, we could then select members of SEAC associations and not just trustees. So again, it was a flawed logic on my part, I think, when I put it together. Yeah, sure.
So a reminder again that this would be a recommendation to trustees, right? Because this is a committee of the board. So whatever those changes might be for membership would have to go there. So I would imagine trustees might be thinking about other committees of the board are all determined by trustees. All membership at this table is determined by trustees. All of you have been approved at the board table as members. So I'm not sure if trustees might continue that logic in, once again, it's up to trustees, but just pointing out that all other board committees membership is approved by trustees, and this one is too.
Leah, yeah.
Thank you for that, Mark. That's actually what I was going to share, that this is a committee of the board, this would go forward to the trustees. But I like the idea of having the SEAC representation as well. I think there's value to that. I just had two questions. I was wondering whether 2 years as a commitment would be too overwhelming. I really like it that it could be, there could be a overturn. The other thing I just wanted to ask is, I'm wondering whether this person could report into Student Senate, as a I want to say a figure to sit on Student Senate as well, and that it becomes a subcommittee of Student Senate, but I think there needs to be a two-way communication, one way at SEAC, but and getting back to those students as well, in reporting on what they're hearing at this table through this student eyes, so that they have a chance to inform the other senators at the table.
So I'll go with the first one. For the reason for the 2-year, and we had this discussion, because I think the learning curve for a student coming on to SEAC is going to be longer than a learning curve for a student trustee going on to the Board of Trustees. I almost feel like they'd be getting up to speed, and then they're coming off. And so if you looked at it, we talked about a rotating, so that you'd have one person would be finishing their second year when the other person is coming on. So you're kind of getting that continuity. Was the logic behind it? I mean, if you guys don't think it makes sense and a 1-year commitment is, it makes more sense, that's fine. It was just something I threw out there. I think the other piece of it is, because many students in special education are there in high school for 7 years. So again, you kind of have that longer term that they're even in high school. So again, that was part of the logic as well. But if we feel 2 years is too long a term, then put it back to 1 year and give them the option to apply again. In terms of the Student Senate, I think it's a great idea to have them sit on Student Senate. I wouldn't want to draw the candidate from Student Senate. I think most of your student senators are your rock star, and that's great. I just don't think that they have the special education perspective we're looking for here. So I would be afraid to draw them from that, because you're not going to get a student from CPP who's necessarily a student senator. And we want to make sure that all children in special education under an IEP have the opportunity to apply. You'll notice they're not elected, right? Because again, I think that creates, I just don't think it gives us the opportunity to make sure we get the right perspective. I don't think that's coming out the right way it's supposed to, but that was kind of, the thought process behind it. Yep.
So I would highly encourage you to look at the 1-year option. I think our current student trustees have a 1-year commitment. And I think it would perhaps engage a larger number. I think there's that piece. I'd also like to see if there's an alternate, if that might be your way of getting that, somebody who can maybe be an alternate 1 year and then the following year be the full, because I'm assuming they would have a voice and a vote at this table.
Would work the same as the alternates, and so you'd still have two people. Well, so we're looking at two representatives, right? So because I think it makes more sense for there to, again, to be two of them to kind of be buddies with each other. So you would, similar kind of idea that we do with all the associations of the trustees, although their vote doesn't necessarily count, so they'd each get a vote, but the similar sort of idea, yeah. Okay, Jason. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm sorry.
It's the thing.
I'm like
The thing did
totally.
it.
Okay, who wants to go next? Okay.
You took me off.
I did. I
Very
need to like get away from that thing, I think.
So I just wanted to add to what Leah had said, because I thought the whole idea of having a student representative came from the Student Senate. So most of the student representatives on the other committees, for instance, accessibility coordinating comes from the Student Senate. So I don't know if you thought about that, because it was their idea. That was a Student Senate idea in the first place.
I
Right?
do understand that, but unless they have some sort of experience with special education, I don't think that's my personal opinion. And if other people disagree, I mean, please by all means. But the way that the kind of the way that I look at it is, if they're going to bring a perspective to the table, they have to have experience to bring that perspective to the table. So if you have a child who has gone through regular programming their entire life and they say, oh, I'm on the Senate, I want to sit on SEAC, they're not really bringing a student voice.
But there are students that have that experience on the Student Senate now.
If there are, great.
Okay.
My concern is, and again, we don't want to disregard the kids who are in the CPP, because I'd be very surprised if any of them are on Student Senate.
No, but they could be encouraged to join Student Senate. That would make it.
You're limiting our pool of students if you tell us we can only take it from Student Senate.
But it's limited anyway, right? Because the whole idea was that the student senators wanted to be on these committees. So anyway, that's just my opinion. The other side is I agree with the 1 year term, and if they'd like to do 2 years, they can. But I think there should be a 1 year term for each position. Because the student may want to be on another committee as well. They don't want to be locked into just being on one. They may want to move to another committee. So if you feel that the student representation on SEAC needs to be from somebody who has that experience, then that could limit it. But, I think 1 year is probably a better option.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jason, you were next before I took you off. I know Amy's after Jason.
I keep getting bumped,
Yeah.
but just, although it would be ideal to find a student either with special needs or with direct experience with special needs and a member of the Student Senate, I think by imposing both of those conditions, we're narrowing our pool of candidates to a very small number. And obviously kids with special education, either direct experience or an IEP themselves, are going to have a different view of what goes on within special education. And I think that would be a more important criteria personally. The 2 year, 1 year, now maybe we took something different from our last discussion, but I looked at the 2 year thing as not every student on SEAC serving 2 years, but we got one, a keener hopefully, that wants to serve 2 years, and another one that serves 1 year, so that they're overlapping each other. So we always have one experienced student sitting in the committee and a new one, so there can be some mentoring going on. If they both changed every fall, then you would end up with, it's still a 2 year term though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. That's what I was thinking anyway. Some way of getting a student to help welcome a new student into SEAC. So that was my thought. Go
Amy.
ahead, Amy.
So I only wanted to make one comment, but now I've heard so many other things that there's a lot of things I want to comment on. I understand what you're looking for with the 1 year, 2 year, and I think it was Trustee Reynolds who suggested that the first year could be as alternate and the second year as the member. So if it was a graduated process where in their first year they were the alternate and in their second year they were the representative, I think that could work. Regarding whether or not the student would be a member of Student Senate, I think what Student Senate is looking for is student voice to be present in the committees, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be a senator. So while I can understand that some of the senators may wish to be on SEAC, I think it's also important for whoever sits on SEAC to have some either firsthand or a relative with firsthand experience in what it is to have an IEP and to be in receipt of services for special education. The reason why I put my hand up was the term commences August 1st, and the SEAC term is December to November. So I didn't know how we were going to have that overlap work properly, and yet I understand that we've got, like, August 1st is the first day for student trustees, but I don't know how we would make that work properly on SEAC, because they would be getting their orientation like only every 4 years, and it would be after being on the committee for 3 months in the 4th year. I think there needs to be some thinking about when the term starts. I don't know what the right answer is. It just looks problematic to me.
Okay, thank you.
Sophia.
I just thought I would share my opinion on the whole situation. I think I agree that the kids being selected should, is there an echo? They should have, I think, some special education experience, absolutely. And I love that you have the siblings on there, because I think the siblings of some of our kids are passionate and they have firsthand experience. And it'll be an asset to hear, like, because they've been in the programs, they've heard what it's like, so they can really bring authentic voice, I think, to our conversation. And I agree. I think 1 year, while I see what you mean, we might have a greater pool. As an adult, like, the learning curve is huge for SEAC. So for these kids coming in, they're going to be like, everything's going to go right over their heads, I feel. So I think, or maybe the graduated program where you start as a backup and then you're moving up. But I think that it probably will take 2 years for them to really get engaged in the conversations and really make a contribution. That's my thoughts.
Thanks, Sophia. Jason, were you back on?
Yeah, just, it was there for a second and then it was gone. There was one other topic we were talking about. Oh, paragraph 2C. I took that to mean, in good standing, to mean not expelled. Really is what I think what that implies, right? You can be enrolled and expelled at the same time. So that's where I was thinking that language applies.
Okay, that probably makes sense.
Every once in a while, I do, yeah. So are there any other questions or comments on this? Mark says he's got something to say. Is that right? I think I would also treat this as a draft.
Oh, yeah,
not
absolutely
this is not how it's going to be. It's just to get the discussion started. So go ahead, Mark.
So could our language be that we would like to see a 2-year term, but that or 2 years of service, or whatever you want to call it, but that they're 1-year positions. So it gives trustees the option, or whoever's deciding, the option of continuing. So you could have that. Sorry, now my words are. We could have that succession planning happen, right? But if for some reason the student says, I've had enough after a year, or I'm just wondering if there's some wording to put in flexibility. Say, here's our intent, but knowing that 2 years may not work for everybody. Okay. And I think the language, I was going to say the same thing around, it could be expelled, or there could be some other circumstances that you might say, the student's no longer in good standing, haven't attended for 6 months or other things that might come up. So I think sometimes that openness of language gives some flexibility as well.
Yeah, just in thinking of the overlapping idea, another option possibly, again, just throwing it out, is we could have, and maybe it gets too complicated, but we have each student position has a different start and end date so that they do overlap, right? So that one starts in, say, September for 2 terms, another one starts in January for 2 terms. So they're always overlapping a little bit. That gives the student that's had a little bit of time in to be a mentor for the one that's coming in. Because I'm going to assume, given most teenagers that I've met, they'd rather talk to someone they identify with as a peer rather than an old person, right? I know not all of us are in that category, but we're going to look like that to somebody who's 15, right? So that's where I was thinking that maybe some way just that the students encourage self-training that way. You're on the list, Diane. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to comment that the terminology that they use at the demonstration schools is it's a 2-year placement, 1-year renewable.
What does that imply? I'm not familiar.
It implies that it can be a 2-year placement, but after 1 year, it's up for discussion.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good too, yeah.
Does anyone have any thoughts on the selection method using kind of the interview method as opposed to an election?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you. Yes, I much prefer a selection method because this is a committee of the board. And so the board would have to approve. And so, yes, I think that the selection versus the election is a better way to go. I'm not opposed to having SEAC members on the committee, but at the end of it, it is something that trustees would vote on.
Oh, go ahead, please, Leah.
I completely agree with Trustee Collard. That's exactly what I would think, is that it gives us a chance to have a conversation with the student. I really feel that a student voice, they're going to bring so much to this table. I don't believe they're going to need to be brought up to speed. I think they're going to hit the ground running. I think they'll have a lot of personal experience and perspective to share, and that's what I really welcome. I believe that as a group, we will collectively support them in their learning. However, I'm sure they will not be shy or uncomfortable to share their perspective, and I look forward to it.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions or comments to go? All right, well, thanks, Denise, for putting that together, and we will be getting back to this.
Come back with draft number 2.
Yeah. So marked draft.
I'm sorry, I'll put draft across.
Yeah. Do the big diagonal watermark thing so you can't miss it.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, thank you all for your suggestions and comments on that. Next up is questions from the public. I don't see any. For those of us, or for those of you rather watching from home, you can contact Lorna Goodrow with any questions you want to bring to the committee. Her email address is goodrowl@hdsb.ca. Next on the agenda is 6.1, Superintendent's Report. Over to you, Mark.
Oh, no, you forgot SEAC discussion.
Oh, pardon me, yeah. SEAC
Really tried to
discussion and
speed the
question
meeting up.
period. Sorry. Yeah, between the two of us, we've almost got it. Speakers? Anything? Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah, this is a
I'm
fun
going to get the hang
meeting.
of this and then the whole year is going to be over. Go ahead.
I just have a quick question. Could you remind me what the date of the budget workshop for the trustees is?
It's been happening at the committee of the whole meetings. So those happen on the alternate Wednesdays of the month, opposite from the budget meeting, from the board meetings. So it really depends on the amount of budget information available and what comes forward in each of those meetings. So it's been the last 2 meetings of April, and you'll see that. I think I shared the PowerPoints with you. And so the next one wouldn't be, there's a board meeting next week. No, tonight. Sorry, tomorrow night there's a board meeting. So next week there's another committee of the whole meeting, and budget should be on that. So that would be May the 9th.
May 9th?
Right?
Could I have a trustee confirm that, please?
We haven't really had any budget discussions because there isn't the technical paper just came out. So while our superintendent of business has discussed budget, there's been no talk about what we would like to see in the budget because we haven't had a chance to have the technical paper reviewed yet. So, but it should be May 9th. And yes, please come.
And Superintendent Veerman prepares a PowerPoint each time. I've shared those with you. So after May 9th, I'll share that with you as well.
Thank you, Diane. Next is Sophia, please.
I had a question about the report card, and it's a bit sort of technical, and I thought you guys, this is the best place to ask it. I recently learned that learning skills are not modified on the report card. So the comments that the teacher makes can say, child is showing responsibility, child is showing initiative, lots of great things. But then they said, I was talking to my son's school, and they said, yeah, this is great, but for some reason we're not allowed to modify the learning skills. So even though this is great, excellent, good, we have to put an N at the top. So I was like, is that ministry mandated? Is that board mandated? And the certs didn't know. They're like, we don't know. We just were told that that's what we're supposed to do. So I'm curious. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. I'm wondering if anybody knows.
That's a great question. And I should know the answer, but I don't. So I'm going to look to the wonderful staff who are sitting here and see if any of you have an answer. Do we provide direction to staff on that?
Andrew, you gotta go up there.
First night, Sean, trial by fire. I warned you.
Thank you for the, I'll get the hang of this. So 2 years ago, we were able to modify the learning skills. Recently, the board has changed under the IEP directives that we do not change or modify the learning skills, but we accommodate the students who require that through alternative parts of the IEP. So there can be social emotional sides of things. But the learning skills themselves can be adjusted in terms of the criteria, unlike the specific expectations in the subject curriculum. But there's no means within the IEP engine to allow for accommodations or modifications. And that, I believe, comes from the ministry because the report card is designed at the ministry level. And there's no, if you see on the subject areas, there's a section where we can check off IEPs. There's nothing like that in learning skills currently.
But I'm wondering, it's sort of, then the report card doesn't flow. And so I'm a teacher, I know the report card, so I can understand this. But the families that I'm trying to explain this to, they're like, how does this make any sense? The comments here say, my child's doing great, he's responsible, he's showing initiative, he's doing all these wonderful things. But then at the top it says, and, right? So wouldn't you look at the responsibility section with respect to this child's modified report card or modified expectations? Like the report card doesn't flow. It's almost like an incoherent document.
I see what you're saying.
It's such an obvious thing, and I've actually been to several people, and everyone's like, it doesn't make sense. We don't know why. So nobody seems to know why, but everybody agrees that it doesn't make sense.
Fair enough. There's no means within the system that we have to make the changes. Teachers are obligated to report based on what the expectations are, and we can't modify the learning skills yet.
So how about we'll go and ask both in the curriculum department and with our ministry contacts and say, is what we're saying tonight right? If it's not, we'll get back to you. But honestly, I've never had the question, but it makes a ton of sense what you're saying.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I've had a couple families that I've discussed it with, and they were all like, yeah, that's a good question, and let's figure it out.
We struggle with it as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Answered his first question.
Yeah, go ahead, please, Melissa.
My question's about, and I know it's a board, it's not just a board issue, it's a province-wide problem, the lack of supply teachers and supply EAs that's going on. Vacancies are up to 30% on any given day of jobs not being filled. So in the schools, that means that CERTs and spec ed teachers and librarians, they're all being pulled, in addition to sort of teachers having to like a double gym class will remove one teacher. So there's 60 kids in a gym class with one, teacher. So I know this is happening all across the province, and it's been a little bit in the media. So some of the parents of mine were, seriously concerned about the safety of the kids with physical disabilities when some of those support staff are being pulled or not replaced. So I know, in my personal opinion as well, 2 EAs call in sick in my son's classroom, and they were replaced by one for half a day. So the day he came home, he was not properly toileted. He hadn't finished all of his lunch, and their apologies were there. Sorry, we ran out of time. But that's a major two basic human rights issues, feeding and toileting. I mean, it isn't happening every day. They are trying their best. It's certainly not the fault of the remaining staff and EAs, but it's a real concern that we're pulling spec ed support for the kids that need it most when we're short of staff. So I'm just wondering if Halton has a plan to address that issue.
A great question, Melissa. This is something that all boards have been wrestling with for a few years now. I think we're not struggling as much with unfilled teacher vacancies. We're in a better spot in Halton. It does hit some schools on some days, but our supply teacher lists are pretty robust. You may see it in some areas where some specific training is needed, in some of the tech areas, perhaps in French, those kinds of things. But we're not in a bad spot from the teacher's perspective. EAs, yes, we're experiencing some of those similar challenges to other boards in the province. We've been doing a number of things to try and address that. We did a survey last winter, spring, of all of our occasional EAs, basically asking them a lot of questions about why do you take jobs in Halton, why don't you take jobs in Halton, and how could we make working here more attractive. Knowing that we compete with other boards for EAs, we know that a number of our EAs are on multiple supply lists and with neighboring boards, and so we gained quite a bit of good information there that we could act on to address some of their concerns and make the jobs more attractive. So that's one of the things we did. Another that we did is we've been hiring quite vigorously, going to the colleges to promote Halton and try and get a step up that way. And also to hire specific to areas. We know that, for example, that we have a more difficult time in the Milton, Georgetown area. So we've gone and interviewed up there, and specifically candidates that live up there, knowing that we'll have a greater chance of them taking jobs there. So we've been intentional around geography. A challenge is that you're probably aware that the contracts now for all of our employee groups have been decided centrally, negotiated centrally, and therefore our compensation structure is decided centrally, and boards can't change it. So we could just say let's say we decided we really want to pay EAs more in order to attract more. We can't do it. it's part of that, being stuck where we're at on that central agreement. So there are some things that we can do, some things we can't. We're certainly having conversations. We have staff that are on representatives on the college advisory boards, and so we're having more conversations there so that staff, candidates coming through those programs really understand the job, and hopefully coming through with that knowledge, know what they're applying for, want to work as an EA, and therefore we have better retention. Because, that can be a real mismatch if that's not what I thought I was going to do, and then we lose them. So we've been working at it from that standpoint as well, and trying to really understand, if you're saying, I don't think I want to come back to that school or to that program or class or to Halton, why, and trying to turn that around as well for that supply. So things that we can control that we've been working on, because we're very conscious of this, and some things that we can't.
Sorry, just one follow-up question. Is there a minimum number of days that an EA on the supply list would have to do in order to retain their position on that supply list? I mean, teachers, I know supply teachers have to work a minimum of 20 days in order to stay there. Is there a minimum for the EAs?
I'm looking. Gabby, do you know that? Or Margaret? 6 days, you think?
Just 6?
Yeah, we can double check that and get back to you. If we keep the number too low, they may not work for us very much.
Yeah.
If it's too high, then maybe they would have done 20. If we say it's 20 days and they only want to work 15, then we lose those 15 days, right?
Right.
There isn't a cap on the size of the supply pool, so we can make it quite full. And if we get a whole bunch of people that all take 20 days each, at least we get the 20 days from them.
And is Halton accommodating for so I know in other boards, LTOs are still on the supply pool list for teachers anyway. So I'm wondering if the EAs that have taken a long-term position, if their name still appears on those lists, and yet they aren't eligible for those day-to-day jobs.
I'm not sure if they appear, but in our system, they wouldn't be. Most boards have a call-out system, right, with vacancies.
Right.
So our system would take them off of that call-out list.
For sure.
If they have
but
a
if
long-term
we're
job.
talking about, or we say, there's 2,000 people on this list, but if 800 of them are filling in for LTOs,
Right.
then really it's not quite. I'm just giving numbers out there.
Right. So we've really dug into those numbers to understand who's on the list, how much are they working, do they have other. Have they taken? Because if it looks like there's 500 people on the list, but only 50 of them can take jobs.
Right.
So we dug into that to really understand how many staff are available. But I think there's, to our EA colleagues who are listening, and they would say there's a challenge with the work and the compensation. It's a challenge.
Thank you. Good questions. Thank you, Melissa. Any other questions? Then we will move on to communication to SEAC, which I will begin by showing you 2 letters that have been sent to SEAC, one from, and I will send you copies of these tomorrow, Peterborough, Victoria, Northumberland, and Clarington Catholic District School Board to the Minister of Education, requesting and supporting the Auditor General's review of the education funding formula and asking for some changes to that. I'll make sure everyone gets a copy of that. If there's support to send a letter in agreement or support as well, we're quite open to doing that. So we'll discuss that at our next meeting. Also today from Peel District School Board, writing to SEAC requesting our support with their Stop the Bus Delays campaign that they're lobbying towards the ministry to increase funding for really for more drivers to prevent delays and disruptions in the busing service in Peel. So again, I will copy this, have it sent to you by email tomorrow. If this is something we will discuss next meeting, and if it's something we want to respond to or get behind, we'll discuss it in next meeting. Next up then is Mark and his superintendent's report.
So very quickly, maybe I'll pass by number 1 because those are additional classes that I gave you a list last month of classes that we had added or changed in the system, and those are 3 other changes you see there. But I'll spend some more time on number 2. So over a year ago, the trustees approved a new 4-year multi-year plan from 2017 to 2020, and they established a fund to support initiatives within that plan. And so you can see there some work that we've proposed in the budget for trustees to consider in support of the multi-year plan. And so to clarify that the dollars in that budget line are one time only. So when those dollars are spent, they're not there anymore. So if you're wondering why they can't pay for a position, for example, that's why. So you can see there, that's all. Let me, and having said that, here's an exception. I'll clarify that we have in the budget and the addition of another itinerant teacher to support students with blind and low vision. And that's because the demands have been increasing there, and we haven't increased in staffing in that team for quite a number of years. So this is, we're actually funding this from anticipated funding from the special education grant that the ministry has announced. I talked about that last meeting, that the ministry has announced more dollars in special education resource staff, but the details of that aren't clear yet, because as Trustee Collard mentioned, the technical paper wasn't released until Friday. Friday at 4 o'clock is when it arrived in our email. So that is still being pulled apart and understood. But in anticipation of some funding there, we identified the need for an additional blind low vision teacher. So you see there. There is another source of funding, which you've heard me talk about here before, called EPO grants. Education Program Other is what EPO stands for. And these are grants that are only year to year. So there's no guarantee that that EPO grant will exist the next year. We only know it exists this year. So within the, one of the EPO grants that we get is for, it's called a special education amount for assistive technology. So that comes to each board, and that funding must only be spent on things and services that support the use, implementation, the learning of assistive technology. So it's quite a restricted grant the ministry gives us. So it does allow us to hire staff, but it's very specifically says that those staff can't be permanent, because once again, those dollars are not guaranteed year to year. So we can hire staff, and in most cases, actually in all cases where we have these staff hired, we've hired them from our experienced staff, but their backfill have to be occasional. Does that make sense? So we haven't hired permanent staff. We've transferred a staff member into a position, and their replacement is occasional. Does that make sense? Or temporary? So, and we are not alone in this practice. The ministry knows this goes on because, and actually I confirmed again that we could do this because business services insist that I do. And, but our neighboring boards all do this as a way to provide training around assistive technology for both students and staff, to manage equipment, to do the administrative work. All of those things happen through this grant, but not with permanent staff being hired, if that makes sense. So we're not spending the money as quickly as we get it. We have a reserve of these dollars, and therefore we can hire some assistive technology leads. We have one right here in the board right now, and we've had a presentation here by Judy Sackville, if you recall Judy doing a presentation here on assistive technology, and then we had a chance to do some processing in the back again, like we did tonight. But we have enough in our reserve that we can hire three more AT leads to help us with this. And we're doing this because we've been contracting out a fair bit of the learning, hiring outside firms to come in and do some of this training with our staff and to run camps and things like that for our kids. And we'd like to do more of this in-house, which a number of our neighboring boards do as well. So once again, this isn't money from within the board's budget. This is a separate grant. So if you're wondering why can't we spend this on something else, we can't. It's a very tight parameters around those dollars. So that's in the budget as well. And then we did receive confirmation of dollars to continue our renewed math strategy. So you've also heard about that here. We brought quite a lengthy presentation about that a number of months ago, and the focus there is around supporting students with learning disabilities in improving their performance in math. So we have dollars proposed in the budget to continue that support from this multi-year plan budget line, and dollars coming from the ministry specifically for this work as well. We also have in there proposed continuation of the special education review. So that would be dollars looking at going further and deeper with that. So that's in there. And then also, this is in that 1 year dollars, money to support us doing further work in collaborative problem solving. And if you're not familiar with collaborative problem solving, you can do some quick learning on that online. If you look up collaborative problem solving, if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Ross Green, also Stuart Ablon, who's been doing a lot of work with our board, and he's out of Massachusetts General Hospital. Think Kids is the program that it's called there. But there's YouTube videos and lots of information if you're interested there. But this is some dollars to go deeper into collaborative problem solving, because there's lots of resonance with that within our system, and we want to deepen that work. And the philosophy of that is kids do well if they can. So so all of that, those are some of the initiatives that we're looking at supporting in the budget. Brought you the specifics that are apply to special education there. And then, as I mentioned, the technical paper has just come out Friday. And so that takes some time for staff to pull apart, because often in the ministry's funding announcements, things will be announced and detailed in the technical paper, which we already have the money for. It may sound like a new initiative, look like a new initiative, but it's not. We already have the money. Some other things are new and are new dollars, and depending on what the rules are around how we can spend those dollars, then inform what the budget would look like going forward. So, and this isn't specific to education. If you're familiar with funding in the healthcare field or other government areas of the budget, sometimes things get announced and announced and announced, and it's not more and more money. It's the same thing being announced over and over again. So staff are careful not to get everyone's hopes up that, oh, there's new money for this when it's not new. So, like I said, it's only been a couple working days since we got that detail. So we'll be coming back with more of that, and it'll be coming in the budget workshops that trustees are hearing as well. But what we're hearing overall is that there's very limited amounts of new money. So, which you've heard from me here before.
There is a couple of questions, I think, related to the budget, so if you don't mind,
Sure.
we'll do those now.
Yep.
Denise, go ahead.
So this is a question Lisa Cameron has. She's watching us live stream because she can't be here, so she just emailed me. And her subject line says EAs. I just sent her back that thing, but she said, are schools allowed to use co-op students to help when they have staff shortages, I think is what she means.
So we have a variety of people in schools doing a variety of things, various staff roles, volunteers, co-op, etc. So co-op students can perform a number of things, tasks, roles in schools, but it'd be pretty limited what they can do. So there's nothing that says this is only a teacher's job or well, I shouldn't quite say that, but we don't necessarily compartmentalize some of those things, but co-op students could help in some ways, but principals have to be careful about training, privacy, those kinds of things. So to a limited extent, and I'll look again to my staff if you want to add to that at all. Yes, no. Yes, you're agreeing with me? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane, go ahead, please.
Just clarification, Mark. You're saying that the 3 IT leads that can be hired will only be hired for 1 year?
Thank you. Great question. So, no. The terms of that would be a 3-year term. It would be similar to an IPL. So, it'd be a 3-year term with the potential for a 5-year renewal. So, because we don't want people coming for, this is only a 1-year job, and then because we're going to get sort of better candidates if they know I'm going to be in this for a while. So, there are enough dollars in the reserve to be able to do that. Plus, even though if we say it's a 3-year term and we run out of money, which we wouldn't, but if we did, for example, that their replacement is occasional. So we can, in essence, bump them back and not be contractually bound to the occasional person. But they're 3-year terms.
Okay, that's all there are on the list, so you can go on to item 3.
Sure, and the last item there, I just thought would be, you would appreciate seeing the PA day that just happened on Friday. Elementary schools were engaged in PD at their schools, also did some health and safety training as well as their own planned learning. But secondary, we had some really large subject-based PD. And so I thought you'd want to see the kinds of things that we did there for secondary, mostly CERTs, special education teachers, spec ed heads, CPP heads and teachers, and EAs. There's quite a range of topics and learning that went on there. So I just thought you might be interested, because I know we talk so often here about training and learning and capacity building of staff. I wanted you to see the types of learning that went on Friday.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Next, we have association reports. Are there any? Yeah, Diane, go ahead.
At Learning Disabilities Association of Halton, our programs are ongoing from the whole year, are now winding down, but we will be running a language booster boot camp during July and August, and that information is going out to existing parents or students existing in the programs now, but also it will be on the website shortly. And in that Language Booster Boot Camp will be a continuation of the Orton Gilling Camp.
Thank you. Any other association reports? Oh, go ahead, Don.
So there's an ABC Halton Parent Information Night coming up on Thursday, May 17th with a special speaker. The speaker is talking about parenting gifted children, challenges and solutions in dealing with anxiety and other emotional disturbances. And the special guest speaker is Natalie Arenchuk-Tomic. And it's in the Oakville Town Hall Trafalgar Room. So that's May 17th. So anyone's available is welcome to come.
Thank you, Don. Lou, go ahead.
I approached the Halton Children's Aid to ask them about, representation on the SEAC committee. I didn't know where else to bring it up. That's why I'm bringing it up here. So I did speak to them. They said they would be interested in having someone, but they have a liaison committee with the Board of Education, and they would like us to present at the next liaison committee. I don't know when it is, no. I forgot to ask that crucial question, but I thought that the board might know. Okay.
Could you send me the person you were in contact with and I can contact them?
Yes, I spoke to one of the directors called Jennifer Binnington.
Okay. I'll just write that down. And Binnington is in Binnington?
Ington. And she apparently is a member of this liaison committee with the Board of Education.
Good. Thanks for that. That's great.
Okay.
Next we have trustee reports. I see that Leah has just stepped out, so Rochelle, go ahead.
Okay. So on Tuesday, April 24th, the students from grades 7 to 12 elected 2 new trustees for the 2018-2019 school year. Over 1,000 students from 57 schools voted, ultimately choosing, and actually there were 16 candidates altogether, choosing Connor Clark from Nelson High School and Kevin Ming from White Oaks Secondary School. And we voted on the school calendar on April the 18th. There was a little back and forth on the a certain aspect of the calendar. When our calendar committee met, we decided on having a PD day on the election day, October 22nd. But when it went back to our coterminous board, they wanted the PD day on PA day on October 5th. And then the municipalities, the clerks for the election delegated the board. And so both boards decided to do a parent guardian survey to find out which preference the parents had for it. The big reason for having the PD days on the PA days on the same day is the busing issue. It's very expensive to have to carry the busing load on our own. So the survey came back 70% in favor of having a PA day on Friday, October the 5th. And the board is currently undertaking a new education development charge bylaw to replace the 2013 bylaw that came into effect on June the 24th, 2013. So 2 public meetings took place on April the 18th at the board office and to consider the proposed bylaw and inform the public generally about the board's EDC proposal. The PowerPoint presentation from this meeting is now available on the board website, and there will be a 3rd meeting on May the 16th, also at the board office at 7 o'clock. Is there anything else you can think of? No?
Really just that the budget, we're waiting on the technical paper. And once we've had that meeting, which should be on the 9th of May, I have reverb here. We should have more information. There doesn't seem to be a lot of extra cushion, as we've already heard from Superintendent Zonneveld. It looks like a status quo budget.
And I do have one more interesting tidbit. Forbes recognized the Halton District School Board as a great place to work. Halton employees voted HDSB as one of Canada's best employers for 2018. We are ranked the third best school board in Canada and ranked 84th on the top 300 best places to work in Canada.
Well, that's good.
We think so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Committees and other reports. Pick.
So the last meeting was a meeting of the conference committee. And so the next conference is occurring on October 13th. It's going to be at Garth Webb. I think that's largely because it was Burlington's time to actually have the conference, but with all the changes in Burlington, it's going to be at Garth Webb for this coming year. And the conference's theme is Global Competency and 21st Century Learning Skills. And do we want to table again?
Yes, please.
Okay. So there'll be a letter.
Volunteer myself to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a letter coming out then if we're interested.
Great. Thanks. And please don't leave it to the last minute to volunteer. Feel free to offer to go today if you want. Anybody? No? I'll ask again later. Next, Accessibility Coordinating Committee.
And the next meeting is May 31st. Yeah, I'll just check for you. Yes?
Yeah, it's May 31st.
That's it.
Yeah.
Gotta take a breath. Equity and Inclusive Education Advisory Steering Committee. Go ahead, Diane.
The committee met on April the 12th here at the JW Singleton Center. The committee's main task was to identify where the Ontario Equity Plan aligned with the Board Equity Plan and the multi-year plan. So we listed what questions or concerns that we had, and sort of key what came out of all of that is that communication seems to be the key, and ensuring that all our stakeholder groups have a voice.
Thank you, Diane.
I have lengthy notes if anyone would like more information than that.
Okay. Working together document. I know Sherry's on that. I don't think we have anyone else on that, do we? No.
I can just tell you we're still working on it.
That's good. Next is MMR LPB integration update. We did have one meeting. The details are all posted on the HDSB website, so I really won't go through everything that's going on, but there is a lot of work being put into planning the celebration and handling the artifacts and memorials and so on. So I'm sure you've seen some of that already. And pardon me as I refer to my notes. I know it is going out to parents shortly. Waivers allowing the two schools to then start sharing information on IEPs and student information files between the schools. I believe that's 8th of May. It's going out for Lester B. Pearson parents, and 25th of May, it's going out from MMR. Right, so just to allow that co-sharing of information so that they can plan student transitions. And that's really the big part of it. Any questions about that transition meeting? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Please allow me to make a comment, just as a trustee at the board who every month is given the opportunity to listen to a report from Superintendent Blackwell, who keeps us up to date on all of the wonderful transition activities that are underway in the board. I think as we ask questions of Superintendent Blackwell, I think all of us are very, very assured of the overarching methods that are being used to make sure that this is the most successful transition at all possible. And I don't know if my other trustee colleagues in the room would like to comment, but I, for one, am just really amazed at the in-depth amount of activities that have already been underway, but that those are that have yet to occur, but are already planned. And I just feel very, very well assured that this whole transition plan, as outlined every month, and the further developments that occur, it tells me that we're in really, really good hands under the group of individuals that are leading this transition and all the committee members that are providing input to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gray. One other point I did want to add, and this is something that came up at the last meeting, that there was no teaching staff are being made surplus or redundant through this. Every teacher is finding another position either at MMR or elsewhere in the board as people shuffle around. So that's good that they're not losing any experienced teachers over this. That's it for the upgrade. I'm not sure when the next meeting is, but I'll certainly have a report for you when that happens. Next is, sorry, did you want to speak now?
Yeah, please.
Oh, this just in. Go ahead, Denise.
Sorry. Two things. Next meeting in June is our last meeting before I take our summer break. So I don't know if any of you are interested in doing a little socializing after the meeting, maybe down at Gator Ted's, where we've typically been going after our meetings. So maybe we can keep the agenda a little lighter next month, although I know we have stuff to talk about. But maybe we can send out an email just to kind of suggest for whoever's not here, and of course to invite the other trustees to join us as well. The second thing is the Special Athletes Track and Field Day is on June the 20th at, what school did I get? Garth Webb. If you have never gone and you get the opportunity, it's an amazing experience to watch the athletes and the students running, to watch the ambassador students from the schools who come with them. It's a really cool experience if you get the chance. And if you get the chance to come see me at the food booth, and I'll give you a hamburger or a hot dog, because that's where I will be again. The rain date for that is June 22nd.
Maybe if I can add, we'll bring on the June meeting, share with you some of the improvements we've made to some of the events. We heard some of your feedback last year about wanting to see some more inclusive opportunities for our students, and so we've been working closely with our school programs department, with our phys ed, health and phys ed staff, and they give us some great ideas on ways to improve our events. So we'll share some of that at the June meeting.
Yeah, and I'll send out an email with the
Garth Webb in Oakville.
I'll send out an email with the details on the Special Olympics Day. I haven't been in the last couple of years. I'm going to try to get to this one as chair. I was there a few times, and it really is a fun day, and you get to see kids just beaming with pride at their accomplishments and just getting out there and having fun. It really is a good day. So I hope to see people there as well. So next agenda will be sent out, but as I said, we're going to try to keep it light. I don't anticipate there'll be anything major to do with the budget, but we don't know until we know. But certainly the agenda will be coming out, and those interested in a social function afterwards, please join us, because it's always fun. So seeing no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn? Lou, seconded by Diane. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all in June.
Awesome.